Failed prison break in Mahara, one inmate killed. Maradona, Akurana and Beruala come out of isolation. 31.7 billion rupee loan to recommence construction of the Central Expressway. Dutch sailors who landed at Mattala Airport board ship in Gaul.
Good evening and welcome to your primetime news. Starting off with news here at home. The number of COVID-19 patients reported in Sri Lanka increased today, bringing the total number of COVID-19 patients to 708. Around 517 patients are under medical supervision, and the Health Ministry added that 2 patients were discharged this evening. Accordingly, 184 patients have recovered thus far.
The isolation imposed across 5 Grama Ladera divisions in Beruala after COVID-19 patients were identified from these areas were lifted today. These localities were declared isolated areas on the 14th of April. Meanwhile, the isolation imposed in the Akurana areas in Kandy was also lifted under the supervision of health and security officials. The Akurana area had been declared as an isolated zone on the 29th of March. Of the 7 patients, 4 have recovered. 28 days have passed since the last patient was detected. The 28-day period is completed now, and the Akurana town is no longer isolated.
The lockdown imposed on Imamul Aruz Mawatha in Maradona after COVID-19 patients were detected in the area was lifted today. The Imamul Aruz Mawatha, from which 3 deaths had been reported due to COVID-19, was placed under lockdown on the 2nd of April. 302 residents of a housing complex in this lane had been sent to the Punani quarantine centre. They had returned to their homes on the 17th of April upon completing the quarantine period. However, these residents had been instructed to undergo a further 14 days of self-quarantine as well. Accordingly, the lockdown on the area that had been lifted after the self-quarantine period has been completed. Our correspondent reported that another 500 residents had undergone self-quarantine during this period. The curfew restrictions will be applicable to this area. Area residents should abide by travel restrictions as well. We have strictly advised them to avoid entertaining people from other areas and to also refrain from travelling to other places. They had willingly accepted that they would abide by these rules. This was the manner in which the residents paid gratitude to the health officials and security personnel for their services.
ඒත් එක්කම ලන්ඩන් සිට ශ්‍රී ලංකන් ගුවන් යානයක් මගින් අද දිනේ ශිෂ්‍ය ශිෂ්‍යාවන් ඇතුළු පාඨම
207 people, including Sri Lankan students and state officials who had gone to London for academic programs, are to be repatriated on a chartered Sri Lankan Airlines flight today. Arrangements have been made to direct these people to quarantine centres managed by the army upon their arrival. Today, 11 people left for their homes upon completing quarantine after undergoing a PCR test. Accordingly, 4,917 people have returned to their homes from quarantine centres managed by the Tri-Forces. 1,023 people, including family members and relatives who had come into contact with infected Navy personnel, have been directed to quarantine centres. Accordingly, 4,635 people are currently undergoing quarantine across 35 centres.
නිරෝධායන වෙමින් පවතිනවා. මේ අනුව අද දින වන විට නිරෝධායන මධ්‍යස්ථාන 36ක් තුල 4635 දෙනෙකු තවදුරටත් නිරෝධායන වෙමින් පවතිනවා.
Meanwhile, the curfew in all districts except for Colombo, Gampa, Kalutara and Putthala will be lifted from 5 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily starting from tomorrow until the 6th of May.
The President's Media Division said that the curfew in these districts, which will be imposed at 8 p.m. on the 6th of May, will be in effect until 5 a.m. on the 11th of May. The curfew in the districts of Colombo, Gampaha, Kalutara and Puttalam will continue to be in effect until the 11th of May. The President's Media Division added that private and state sector institutions in these districts can be kept open even during the curfew after the 11th of May.
Upul Rohana of the Sri Lanka Public Health Inspectors Association expressed these views on the government's decision to restore public life to normalcy.
Especially considering the developments that took place over the last few days, we have written to the Secretary of Defence. The letter contains information on the situation, decisions and steps we recommend in the future. We have informed the authorities in charge of combating COVID-19 that lifting curfew where it is currently in place is an extremely risky matter. If the decision taken at the top creates a conflicting situation on the ground, we may have to make decisions on that. We would like to tell the government not to put professionals in our field at risk.
Meanwhile, postal trade unions have decided to resign from their positions with effect from tomorrow, citing their work environments lack safety measures. At present, nearly 25,000 workers are employed at the postal department. A gazette issued by the Ministry of Public Administration admits the prevailing situation states the conditions on the supply of protective equipment to the state sector employee when carrying out their duties. Workers employed at the post offices that have already resumed operations have been provided with insufficient protective equipment. We are against our employees being sacrificed to this virus. Therefore, we have decided to resign until all of our employees are provided with sufficient protective equipment and all of our workplaces are disinfected. A flight from the Netherlands touched down at the Ladera airport this morning.
"235 crew members of a Dutch ship arrived in the island on a chartered flight today. They had arrived at the Ladera airport to commence work on a ship that has been anchored at the Galle harbour. An official at the Ladera airport said that the crew members were transported to the port on a bus after being disinfected. 57 crewmen who had already been employed on the ship are to be flown back on the chartered flight tonight. The official added that the government had approved a request made by the shipping company to rotate their employees. Responding to inquiries, airport officials said that the crew members were transported to the Galle harbour while ensuring that they did not come into contact with outsiders. The Sri Lanka Ports Authority said that the employees were rotated under the supervision of Navy personnel and health officials.
In more news here at home, the Highways Ministry and the Road Development Authority have received cabinet approval to borrow more than 31.7 billion rupees from foreign or domestic sources for the construction of the first section of the Central Expressway. The third phase of the Central Expressway, which runs from Potuhara to Ladera, was embroiled in the controversy in the recent past. This was after Japan's Taisei Corporation Limited had been awarded the contract for the construction of the road in 2018. The contract had been awarded to Taisei Corporation on the understanding that Japan's Mitsubishi Financial Group would lend 100 billion yen for it. Although talks between Sri Lanka and Japan had commenced in 2015, the Attorney General's Department and the Finance Ministry's External Resources Department had not expressed agreements towards certain clauses of the proposed agreement. The Attorney General had stated that the anti-corruption provisions were not compatible with Sri Lankan laws. The third phase of the expressway is considered to be one of the most expensive road development projects in recent times. During a media briefing, former parliamentarian Partili Champik Ranawaka commented on how the government had initiated the first phase of the expressway, which runs from Kadawatha to Mirigama. Amidst the financial crisis, the cabinet has granted approval for the construction of expressways from Kadawatha to Mirigama, Rambukkana to Galegedara, Kurunagala to Dambulla, and also the Ruwanpura Expressway. The expressway from Kadawatha to Mirigama should be constructed. However, this is taking place while they are saying that the country doesn't have sufficient funds. The President's Secretary is requesting to slash down the salaries of public servants by 50%. But they have approved 31 billion rupees for these expressways.
ඒ කියන්නේ කෝටි 3100ක් දෙන්න කියලා මේ අධිවේගී මාර්ගෙට.
The former parliamentarian raised concerns over the allocation of large amounts of funds for projects at a time when Parliament stands dissolved.
මෙතුමන්ලා රුපියල් 5000 ගානේ බෙදුවයි.
They have said that the 5,000 rupee relief grant has been distributed among 1.7 million people. Only 8.5 billion rupees has been spent for those who have lost their modes of income. However, they are attempting to provide 4 times this amount for expressway contractors. This is a mega deal. If Parliament is convened, we can raise questions regarding this. This is what they are doing instead of reconvening Parliament.
පාර්ලිමේන්තුව වහගෙන අද මේ කරගෙන යන කෙරුවාව මේකයි.
Journalists made inquiries in this regard at the cabinet media briefing held on the 1st of this month.
Cabinet මණ්ඩලයට නොදෙනුවත්.
What I can say is that we will not make ad hoc decisions unlike the previous government, which did so without informing the cabinet. Since the new government came into power, the president has been leading the country in a transparent manner without being accused of fraud and corruption, while setting an example to this country and the world. I request Johnston Fernando, who is the subject minister for highways, to issue a clarification to the media on matters concerning these expressways.
මානේ තියෙන කරුණු පිළිබඳව ජොන්සන් ෆර්නෑන්ඩෝ විශේෂ අමාත්‍යතුමාට ලබන සතියේ විශේෂ පැහැදිලි කිරීමක් සියලුම මාධ්‍යවලට කරන ලෙස මම ඉල්ලා සිටිනවා.
Attending the Pathikara program, which will be broadcast on Sirius TV tomorrow, former Anuradhapura district parliamentarian Vasudevana Nekara expressed the following views with regard to the proposed Ruwanpura Expressway.
අපේ ප්‍රදේශයේ මිනිස්සු විරුද්ධයි තමන් ජීවත් වෙන.
The people in my electorate do not like roads to be constructed through the mountains on which their houses have been constructed. They have vehemently opposed it. A section of the expressway will run through the alleged electorate. Landslides have taken place in this area in the past. This electorate has been identified as a landslide-prone area. Therefore, the people in this area are afraid of this. Taking these matters into consideration, I wish to put forward a proposal to the Secretary of the Highways Ministry and the Chairman of the Road Development Authority. There is a large reserve border in the Kalu River. The highway to Palmadulla can be constructed through this. It will become a beautiful road to travel as well. The Prime Minister also said it is a good idea as it could assist the tourism industry as well. I spoke to Mr. Premasiri a few days ago and urged him to convene a meeting in this regard quickly.
සමීපයි වගේ මේක. ඒ නිසා මම දැන් පෙරේදත් ප්‍රේමසිරි මහතාට කතා කරලා කිව්වා.
Whilst arguments are being made for and against the 31.7 billion rupee loan for the Central Expressway project, numerous issues cropped up around the 5,000 rupee allowance facility for low-income earners today as well. Workers who are boarded in the Biyagama North Gram Niladhari division gathered at the Gram Niladhari's office today to claim the 5,000 rupee allowance due to them. Our correspondent noted that large numbers had gathered disregarding public health guidelines. Tensions flared after an announcement was made by the Gram Niladhari's office that the 5,000 rupee allowance would only be presented to 70 people today. The crowd voiced their displeasure when the Gram Niladhari arrived at the scene.
People don't have food to eat in the boardings. The neighbors disregard us because we are boarders. They don't even ask if we have food or water.
I don't care if I get the 5,000 or not. Allow me to go home. Will I be able to live here if I am infected with corona? I am in good condition now. If I stay here for another month or two, I will be infected, and when I go home, all the villagers, my wife and my child will be infected with corona too. This is how I will die. And I won't die alone. I will die along with about 77,000 people in my village. Isn't it better for me to return home while I am in good health?
They should allow us to go home if they are not providing the 5,000 rupees. Look at how he is speaking. There was no food last night. We called sir and some food was brought. What are you doing? You're asking us to go home and asking us why we are here. There is no milk for infants. We can't even get a kilo of rice. People are despairing. During elections, they come to get the votes of the residents, but they don't look into the welfare of those who are boarded. There was no flood relief either. During the floods, bread and gravy were provided to 100 families. So is it only the residents who are human? Aren't the boarders suffering too? When we told them our plight, they are asking us whether we don't have any savings. If we had such savings in the bank, we wouldn't travel all this way. We have been forced to beg for food because the corona curfew has prevented us from working. They say it is 5,000 rupees per 3 people. That is okay, but provide the funds. We are only eating 1 meal a day. We will conserve it and manage with 1,500 rupees each. We are surviving on a cup of tea now.
Officers of the Biyagama police arrived at the scene led by the OIC.
Keep the distance between each other and return home. The money will be given to the 70 people. It will be paid to another 120 tomorrow. I will come here in the morning. Do not come here and fight. Check your names. Only the 120 who are to receive it tomorrow should come here. Everyone else should stay at home.
The crowd subsequently dispersed. Our correspondent says the Gram Nedari announced that the 5,000 rupee allowance would be provided to another 160 people tomorrow.
A list of 70 names were published today. This division was locked down and we had been informed not to make any payments. We started making payments after it was cleared by the health and security authorities.
The 5,000 rupee allowance was presented to beneficiaries in the Atkhandura Gram Nedari division of the Velvitier Divisional Secretariat in Gaul. Our correspondent said that officials, including the Gram Nedari, had taken steps to personally visit each household to provide the allowance. Amongst those who received the allowance today was one individual who gifted the money to be used for those less fortunate even than him.
It is the country's money. Rather than me spending, it would be better if we use the money for the country. But I am glad that you have come here since there are many families who badly needed this. If you did not come, you would not know who these people are. Now you have got to know them. These people won't run around hooting and shouting.
Several parties expressed their views regarding the need to reconvene Parliament and the Prime Minister's meeting with all former parliamentarians. Lawmakers who were not a part of the 8th Parliament have also been invited to attend the meeting with the Prime Minister. This shows how desperate the government is. This is a drama and a joke. Therefore, we wish to tell the people that we are opposing this and urge them to reject the parties which attend the meeting. I don't see any problem if people who have represented the public at any point are invited for the meeting. I feel that it's better to involve them as well at a time when the country is facing a pandemic. Only members of the 7th Parliament have been convened additionally. No one else has been invited. There is no problem if they can work and show some responsibility. Otherwise, there is no point to bringing in former parliamentarians. They were of the view that 225 parliamentarians were unnecessary. However, a sudden need has arisen for them now. They are convening them to temple trees. This is a surprising move. The Prime Minister and the Executive have seized the financial powers of the Parliament and are issuing circulars. They have obstructed the powers of the Parliament to adopt laws. Instead of expressing various remarks in other places, I feel it would be democratic if the parties attend the meeting and express their concerns, as that could assist in resolving problems. Instead of making remarks to newspapers and the TV cameras, they can express their concerns directly to the Prime Minister tomorrow. We cannot understand as to how a The Prime Minister has been caught in a big trap. He has convened all 225 members to relieve himself from this. The election pandemic has now begun. What we can observe is that Mahinda Rajapaksa is attempting to dampen the work plan that is being carried out by the President. He might be dreaming that he is still the President. The entire opposition, including the UNP, has been affected by the coronavirus. One faction is with Ranil and the other with Sajith. These two groups will be defeated irrespective of when the election is held. To prevent that, they are trying to invalidate the nomination list. They are trying to do that even by bringing a bill to Parliament. No member in the Samagi Jana Balawega, including its leader, want to become seat warmers and engage in political horse trading to help someone achieve their political ambitions. The Prime Minister is responsible to the Parliament and not its canteens. We do not want to provide comfort to these leaders. We are willing to work for the people. Various views were expressed on political platforms regarding the validity of the nomination lists for the general elections, as the days on which nominations had been accepted were declared as public holidays. According to Roman numeral 2 of subsection B under section 10 of the Constitution, it is the election which cannot be held on a public holiday and not accepting nominations. The nomination period was declared during the second week of March. The holidays were declared after that. Therefore, the constitutional clause states that such announcements will not be applicable in retrospect to the election. We do not know why the Election Commission had decided to seek the opinion of the Attorney General. However, we cannot blame them for this. That is because if any legal issues arise, an opinion can be sought only from the Attorney General. The Constitution has provided a minimum amount of days to accept nominations. There is a problem as that period was not given. At the same time, there is a problem as these days were declared as public holidays. I feel that there are certain shortcomings that have taken place due to the coronavirus pandemic. Therefore, there is a problem which directly affects the nomination lists and their validity. Therefore, the Election Commission should either obtain legal advice from the Attorney General or a citizen should seek a determination from the court. They are trying to delay the election by manipulating the members of the Election Commission and by also citing legal loopholes. We condemn this conduct of the Election Commission. Through this, we can observe that these groups are acting collectively, although they portray themselves as separate entities. Our lawyers have clearly said that the nomination lists are valid.
The United National Party has issued a statement saying the party will boycott the meeting tomorrow with Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa. UNP General Secretary Akila Viraj Karyavasam had said earlier that the party would be represented at this meeting.
The UNP says, quote, while this meeting was not accepted as an alternative to the official reconvening of Parliament, the UNP decided to attend the meeting so as to once again reiterate the party's official stance that politics must be put aside in the face of the growing national crisis caused by COVID-19, end quote. The statement then reads, quote, however, the party has since learnt that the invitation to this meeting has been extended to all former MPs and other active political leaders, including those from the previous parliament, end quote. The UNP went on to note that the party is of the opinion that no meaningful dialogue can be held in this type of meeting. The statement went on to note that the UNP stands ready to assist the government in their efforts to eradicate the COVID-19 menace. The statement concludes saying, quote, however, in order to effectively do so, the government must ensure that all measures taken are those in line with the country's constitution, end quote.
A Newsfirst team encountered this courageous group of women in Trincomalee.
Prior to the imposition of the curfew, several fishermen in the Trincomalee district said they were hoping to return with a good catch to ply their trade. However, some of these fishermen were unable to return to the ports they left from leaving their families despondent. The matriarchs of these families in a small fishing village in Trincomalee are now pulling the nets in themselves to sustain their families. The courage and perseverance of these women is indeed an example for the entire nation.
අපිට ජීවත් වෙන්න කොහොමත් බෑ. ගැහණු කියලා නැහැ අපි පස්සට යන්නේ නැහැ. කොහොම හරි මෙතන ඇවිල්ලා අපේ තියෙන ධෛර්යය අපේ ශක්තිමත්කම අපි යොදලා අපි මේ දැලා දින්නේ.
රුපියල් 5000 හම්බුණා. ඒ 5000 මදින මාසයක් ජීවත් වෙන්න. ඉතින් දවසේ වෙදම හොයාගන්න තමයි මේ මාදල්ලා දින්නේ. ඒකෙන් තමයි ජීවත් වෙන්නේ.
We found a village in Velikanda which had been suffering from a water shortage for over 2 decades. This is the Siriodaya village in Namalgama, Velikanda. This village is home to around 60 families who have been suffering due to a lack of basic amenities. We have not had water for years. Now we have a bit, but we cannot drink that. It isn't clean and it's only given at 5 p.m. That also lasts only for about an hour. These people must walk about 3 kilometers daily to get access to water. The villagers also have to contend with the threat of wild elephants.
It has been about 20 years and we still have no drinking water. We take water from this one line, but it is impure. It is like silted water when heated. There is also the elephant issue.
Due to the dry weather prevalent at present, growing crops has also proven difficult. Our reporter in Polonnaruwa, Roshan Tushara, says this is a very remote village to which the access road is not easily navigable either.
Nobody cares about our situation. We have nowhere to go. We have been complaining for so long and we are now fed up.
While politicians continue to dedicate their time to canvass for votes ahead of elections, those in rural villages continue to struggle in search of something to eat. What you saw is the sad reality of the residents of Uwa Paranagama. There are 179 families in this village, all of whom are low-income earners. Villagers from areas that were at risk of landslides and those who had no land for themselves were settled here by the government. But these state-issued lands have no space for any sort of cultivation. Villagers state that there is no space to engage in daily wage labour these days either.
සමෘද්ධිය ඉල්ලුවා සමෘද්ධියට ෆෝම් දැන් 13 ගමනට වැඩිය මම පුරවලා ෆෝම් ගෙනියලා බාර දුන්නා කිසිම දෙයක් ඉතින් අපිට දුන්නේ නැහැ මේ සමෘද්ධියට ෆෝම් පුරවලා බාර දීලා මටම ඇවිදලා එපා හිතුනේ ඊට පස්සේ අතහැරලා දාලාම නිකා හිටියයි අවසන් කරලා ඉවර වෙලා
The main livelihood of these villagers for over 30 years was manufacturing palmyra leaf hats. These hats tend to be very popular among both local and foreign tourists. Around 150 families in Ethumalpitiya are engaged in this profession. In the past, there was great demand for this product, but at the moment, there is no demand. Normally, hats produced in this village were distributed all over the island. However, they cannot access traders anymore due to the travel restrictions.
There has been a lot of focus on difficulties faced by rural industries as a result of the economic downturn. However, analysts point out that large-scale corporates face serious challenges with dangerous consequences. Newsfirst touched on the spice trade, tea exports and plantation sector. And today, we report to you about exports, tourism and apparel sectors.
As per the data of the Export Development Board, in March 2020, merchandise export earnings decreased by nearly 42% to $646 million from $1.1 billion recorded in March last year. According to estimates of the EDB, total exports are to see a significant drop this year, amounting to a loss of $7 billion in earnings owing to the global outbreak of COVID-19.
The revised export target for 2020 is $10.7 billion. This revised target is 40% less than the original target and 35% less than compared with the 2019 exports. We are now revisiting our plans of actions to see how we could assist the exporters in this new situation. EDB is now in the process of developing a B2B matchmaking platform for the exporters. We are trying to resolve many exporter issues such as air freight, cargo, the temporary suspension of certain imported raw materials.
According to the EDB, Sri Lanka's foreign exchange earnings declined by 19% during the January-March period this year in comparison to the same period last year. Estimates in the services, exports, construction, financial services, logistics and wellness tourism sectors show an overall revenue of $805 million during the period compared to $1.06 billion last year. Sri Lanka's third largest source of foreign exchange, the tourism sector, witnessed a drop of 70.8% in arrivals in March this year. The industry that supports nearly 380,000 people through direct and indirect jobs and millions more in the formal sector is now facing several challenges due to the global outbreak of COVID-19.
In our industry, in the DMC sector, we have around 4,000 jobs at stake at the moment. Definitely, if we don't have any support from the government coming, which we have asked for, there will be definitely some job cuts. As far as income is concerned, from April onwards, all our DMC members would have almost a zero income. As you know, tourism has come to a standstill. So I foresee a good 1 year period for us to come back to normal once we are out of this COVID situation. Perhaps we would see the first tourists coming in towards December, January.
Sri Lanka's apparel sector, the largest contributor to export earnings, witnessed a 41% decline in earnings during the month of March 2020 compared to the same month in the previous year. This sector that directly employs around 400,000 workers and 2 million more through indirect employment is now questioning their long-term existence.
In the month of March, we have experienced a clear loss of 40% of our turnover. That is where we were close upon 15 days. In the month of April, we did not work, so it can be something like 100% loss. Right now, our concentration is not on the forward targeting, but in fact, it's a mere question of survival. Our major markets, both USA and EU, are suffering at a rate. So given the situation, we really have no idea as where we will be in the months to come. At the moment, the equation is how to survive next few months, and that's what we are doing.
According to the recently released Central Bank annual report for 2019, the central government debt to GDP ratio increased to 86.8% at the end of 2019 from 83.7% at the end of 2018.
According to the Central Bank, outstanding central government debt increased by 8.3% to 13.031 trillion rupees by the end of 2019. According to the CBSL, the increase in debt reflects the impact of higher net borrowings to finance the enlarged budget deficit. In 2019, the government incurred 901.4 billion rupees as interest payments to service its debt obligations. The share of foreign debt as a percentage of GDP rose to 42.6% in 2019, while interest payments on foreign debt increased by 16.9% to 248.6 billion rupees due to the rise in foreign commercial borrowings during the year. Interest payments continued to be the single largest recurrent expenditure item, accounting for 39.2% of total recurrent expenditure and equivalent to 47.7% of the government revenue in 2019.
Now, earlier today, Newsfirst Zeenat Musaffar spoke to the Deputy Governor of the Apex institution in the financial sector of Sri Lanka on our From the Newsroom segment.
A very good evening and a warm welcome to Newsfirst. With the outbreak of COVID-19 in Sri Lanka and across the globe, many central banks have provided relief and concessions of all forms to support the general public and institutions in the country. Now, even in Sri Lanka, the central bank has announced several concessions and relief packages to the general public and institutions to help them cope up and face this challenge. Now, joining us this evening on Primetime News is Deputy Governor of the Central Bank, H.A. Karunaratne, to clarify certain issues that we have faced recently due to the general public not receiving these concessions. Good evening, Deputy Governor.
Good evening.
Deputy Governor, so the Central Bank on several occasions has announced relief packages to the general public and financial institutions and other private sector institutions. Deputy Governor, some people as well as institutions claim that these relief packages and these concessionary measures have not yet been received. What's the reason for this, Deputy Governor?
So we have taken whatever the actions from the central bank to facilitate general public and also the businesses who had been affected due to this corona impact to provide that particular facility. Already banks are aware and circulars had been issued. But the issue is we have given the deadline of submitting this particular information to the banks until 30th April earlier, and now that has been extended until 15th May 2020. That may be one of the reasons, because banks sometimes keep the request for the 4% loan with them and subsequently they submit just before the deadline already. But we have received some of those requests now from the banks. But with regard to the other facilities, other reliefs, those things would have already done, because banks do not require to wait until a further date, and they can straight away implement.
Certain individuals claim that the relief measure that was announced by the central bank, that is to defer the loan installment by 2 months, has actually been deducted. Now, what exactly is the reason for this? Is it an error that has occurred from the central bank side or from commercial banks?
Well, it is not an error, because as you may aware, banks are running all these scheduled payment and deduction through their computer systems. Because of that, since those had been computerized, already might have deducted. But we have requested bank, in case if they have deducted, to credit those relevant amount to the customer's account.
As you mentioned before, request letters have also been sent and they have been acknowledged from the bank side, but yet the payment has been deducted. Is it the same reason as you mentioned before?
Yes. So we have repeatedly informed the bank to credit those amounts to the respective customers. So bank would be doing that. It is mainly due to that reason I earlier indicated.
Deputy Governor, now you mentioned that certain banks, that there's a delay in the process, but some banks claim that they are not informed of this, they're not informed of the instructions of the central bank. What is your response to that?
Well, I really cannot admit that, because number of times we have met the CEOs of all the banks in Sri Lanka, and already we have issued number of circulars. So banks should well aware all those things right now.
Thank you very much, Deputy Governor, for joining us and for clarifying this matter with Newsfirst and as well as the general public. Thank you very much for joining Newsfirst.
Failed prison break in Mahara. 1 inmate killed.
UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson names his newborn after the doctors who saved him.
The footage you just saw was captured at the Abbots Lee Estate in Hatton last night. This was the situation this morning.
More than 50 families living on the Abbots Lee Estate are facing a plethora of difficulties at present. A fire which erupted at the estate last night had engulfed 14 houses in the area. 8 houses had been severely damaged in the fire. The fire, despite being contained, had left very little behind for these 8 families. Although no lives were lost, the damage to property has severely affected these families. The families have currently been given shelter at the community hall in Abbots Lee Estate.
Meanwhile, President Gotabaya visited Anuradhapura today.
President Gotabaya attended the milk food puja held at the Ruwan Valley Mahasaya this morning. The President also sought an audience with Venerable Pallegama Hemaratana Thero, the chief incumbent of the Ruwan Valley Mahasaya. President Rajapaksa then proceeded to the Miriswatiya temple. President Rajapaksa also took steps to inform the Viharadhikari Venerable Italavattunavave Gnanatilaka Thero of steps taken to combat COVID-19 in the country. The President then proceeded to the Sri Sambuddha Jayanti Viharaya, where he received blessings from the chief incumbent Venerable Nugetane Panyananda Thero.
Sri Lanka has ranked 127th for press freedom this year, slipped down by 1 position from 2019 as Sunday marked World Press Freedom Day.
The Press Freedom Index has been compiled by France-based Reporters Without Borders based on 7 criteria including pluralism, independence, transparency, environment, infrastructure and abuses. Reporters Without Borders observed a surge in cases of police harassment of journalists, including raids, interrogations and acts of intimidation in Sri Lanka since last year's presidential election. The watchdog had earlier criticized the raid carried out at a Colombo-based news website soon after the poll in November last year, during which police searched the contents of its servers and computers. Media freedom worries resurfaced in April after US-based Human Rights Watch raised concerns, citing a state order to arrest social media users who criticized the government's battle against COVID-19. Norway retained its top spot in the Press Freedom Index since 2018, while North Korea, which is under a totalitarian regime, came in at 180th, dropping by 1 place from last year. Among SAARC member countries, Sri Lanka has been ranked 5th, with Bhutan securing the top slot in the region, while Bangladesh, with a global ranking of 151, came in last.
An inmate at the Mahala prison has died after a failed escape attempt this morning.
9 inmates at the Mahala prison had attempted to escape the prison between 2 a.m. and 3 a.m. today. Police said that prison officials had fired gunshots into the air when inmates had attempted to escape over the prison wall using ropes and mattresses. The daring attempt ended in a failure. The police claim that 1 inmate had died after falling off the wall during the escape attempt. It is from this location that the inmates had tried to escape early this morning. According to the prison authorities, it is then that 1 inmate had fallen and lost his life. The inmate had been admitted to the prison's hospital and had died after being transferred to the Ragama hospital for further treatment. The deceased prisoner has been identified as a 27-year-old resident of the Ihala Karagaha Mulla area in Kadawatha. We have never shot inmates and will never do so. Our primary responsibility is to protect them. What has happened is that a few shots were fired into the air. 2 prison officers had been injured during a scuffle with the inmates at the time of the escape attempt. They have also been admitted to the Ragama hospital. The police are conducting further investigations into the matter. Inmates who attempted to escape the prison had been imprisoned over offences relating to narcotics, burglary and theft. A prison's official said that they had been imprisoned upon court orders during the last 2 weeks.
Rough seas off Kaleido Beach caused seawater to flow inland today. Incidentally, this follows the recent launch of the Kaleido Beach restoration project.
This is the current plight of the Kaleido Beach restoration project. This project was launched in 2 phases and both have been unsuccessful. We are now witnessing these waters entering the lands. We are asking the government officials to hold discussions with area residents as well before taking such decisions. I see that arbitrary decisions of the government officials have affected coastal erosion and they have lost a large amount of money owing to this. This government had spent around 900 million rupees for this project. Former State Minister of Environment, Jayantha Samaravira, engaged in an inspection tour at this location. This project was done in a strange way. On one hand, there is the project report prepared by the specialist engineers at the Coast Conservation Department, and then there is the experience of the fishermen in the area. Both views were combined when preparing the final report. Based on this, the area was filled with sand and a breakwater was built. We believe that this project will be a success as for the first time in history, both theoretical and practical knowledge was used. Meanwhile, the rough seas resulted in storm surges in Hikkaduwa and Galle. Due to the curfew, not many are experiencing the disturbance to transportation. When they lift the curfew tomorrow, they will see the gravity of this. We ask the authorities to clean the road. Meanwhile, environmentalists expressed their displeasure over the coastal restoration project that took place during the curfew.
The story of patient Roy Ives, whose life was saved by staff at Medway NHS Foundation Trust, including Dr. Gihan Hettiarachchi, was featured live on ITV's Good Morning Britain recently. Sri Lankan national Dr. Gihan Hettiarachchi is a consultant specialized in respiratory medicine at the National Health Service in the United Kingdom. With the efforts of NHS doctors and nurses, Roy Ives was able to pull through despite suffering from a number of underlying health issues and is now back home recovering.
They were absolutely fantastic. I just can't fault them. I haven't got enough words to say to them, thank you.
Do you feel, Roy, that Dr. Hetty saved your life?
No, 2 ways about it. He talked to you so calmly, but he was telling you what procedure he was going through, and that seemed to relax you.
Margie, you meanwhile were obviously hoping and praying that Roy would come through. Dr. Hetty would call you, and in fact he would even, I understand, he'd call the kids as well.
Yes, he did. He went above and beyond.
Well, it sounds like Dr. Hetty, for both of you in different ways, was a remarkable man, and we're very pleased to tell you we've got him with us right now.
Wonderful.
Dr. Hetty, good morning to you.
Good morning. Good morning, Roy. It's absolutely fantastic to hear your voice.
Yes, it is a privilege for me to talk to you. It really is. I mean, what you've done for me was unbelievable. I'm not a person who shows my emotions, but I feel a bit choked up at the moment. Thank you.
Roy, look, I might be the one on the call, I guess, but as you know from having gone through the high dependency unit, the people who are really doing all they can, a testament to their work, is you getting better, which are our fantastic nurses, really. And as you said, I came in twice a day, but they were there 24 hours a day. So I have to say that, you know, it's very much a team effort, and the tireless work that our nurses do. You're one of the first patients that went through our COVID high dependency units. I also have to pay tribute to you, Roy, because it was quite a bewildering experience for you and the other patients on the unit, but your attitude, sort of stoic calmness, was really helpful for the other patients and also for the staff to feel that actually we were going to see patients get better from this and that you were going to get through the other side.
Boris Johnson and his fiancée Carrie Symonds have named their newborn son Wilfred Laurie Nichols partly as a tribute to two of the intensive care doctors who treated the British Prime Minister for COVID-19 last month.
The name was announced yesterday by Symonds on Instagram beside a picture of the boy who was born on Wednesday. 32-year-old Symonds said Wilfred was named after Johnson's grandfather. Laurie came from her grandfather, and Nicholas after Nick Price and Nick Hart, the two doctors who the couple have praised for saving Johnson's life at St. Thomas's Hospital last month. Symonds said, quote, "I couldn't be happier," unquote, adding her thanks to the maternity staff of University College London Hospital. 55-year-old Prime Minister Boris Johnson returned to work on Monday after recuperating from COVID-19, which had left him gravely ill in intensive care at the peak of the coronavirus outbreak. He thanked the doctors at St. Thomas's Hospital for saving his life. Meanwhile, in an interview with foreign media today, the Prime Minister has revealed contingency plans were made while he was seriously ill in hospital with coronavirus. He said he was given liters and liters of oxygen to keep him alive. He says his week in London's hospital left him driven by a desire to both stop others suffering and to get the UK back on its feet.
I want to pay my own thanks to the utterly brilliant doctors, leaders in their fields, men and women, but several of them for some reason called Nick, who took some crucial decisions a few days ago, for which I will be grateful for the rest of my life.
Let's develop our motherland with our innovative inventions. Tell the entire nation about your invention that could change the future. WhatsApp us on 0777 6 000 20. Let's rise up and build our nation together.
Gamadda, V-Force, Innovation Nation.
The Negative of Sri Lanka song provides a different experience for all of us as we continue to combat the virus. Bhargavi Pillai, a popular singer in the Indian film industry, also joined hands in singing the Negative of Sri Lanka song. She holds the credit of singing several songs in popular Indian movies. We leave you tonight with the visuals of this song. I'm Sandra Ferdinando, and joining tonight with the sign language interpreting was Taraka Gabriel.
Negative Sri Lanka, happy negative Sri Lanka.
Negative of Sri Lanka.